Welcome to the Amber Shows. Happy Sunday. How's everybody doing? Hope you had a wonderful, safe, and relaxing weekend or a fun weekend. And nice to see you today. Hope maybe today is a day that you just might want to chill and relax. A lot of disturbing news going on with people going to jail. Particularly, I'm talking about children that are going to jail, where there are prisons in this country. There are two. RIKERS Island in New York and in North Carolina, where 16-year-olds are considered adults, and they're thrown into facilities and jails where there are some of the most hardened criminals, older criminals, and they're being taken advantage of by correction officers. They're being beaten, tortured. They are also being raped. There's so much perversion going on in RIKERS Island. Right now there's a class action lawsuit with RIKERS Island. All the time they're having problems. The women over in the Rosie facility are also having problems. They are not getting the medication that is allowed to them, and they are also being raped by correction officers. They said 6% of the women there have talked to officials saying that they have been brutally raped and nothing has been done about it. I want to talk about Paula Cooper. She was a 16-year-old, she was 15 years old when her and two of her girlfriends, they knocked on this lady's door, a lady Ruth Pelkey. She was a 78-year-old lady in the neighborhood who spoke with wayward children and tried to help wayward children. She loved everybody, and she did Bible studies right from her home. Well, Paula Cooper and her girlfriends went to her house. They got in the house with the roofs of saying that they were there for Bible study, and Miss Ruth Pelkey let them in, and they brutally beat her. They said that Paula Cooper was one of the main person to do the stabbing, and she was stabbed 33 times. Paula Cooper was actually put on death row, and then her Ruth Pelkey's family asked that she not be killed, so they gave her a life sentence. Some kind of way she ended up getting out of jail. She served 28 years, and when she got out, she was a very tortured soul. She said it wasn't one day that she did not think about Ruth Pelkey, and she ended up committing suicide just recently. She got out in 2013. She went to jail in 1995, and for $10, she killed Ruth Pelkey, 78 years old. And she was a child, actually, but a very disturbed child. All of them were. And she didn't get the help that she needed, and she committed suicide when she came home. Also, right now, there's a problem at RIKERS Island where another young boy, his name is Khalif Browder. Khalif Browder was actually held in RIKERS Island, this is disturbing, for 3 years with no trial. He had a $1,000 bail that his parents could not afford, so he just remained there, thrown into RIKERS Island, where he was beaten, brutally raped by guards, brutally raped by inmates, tortured while he was there. They even have videotape of him when he was beaten, where a correction officer beat him. They have videotape of showing other young boys beating him. There's a pervasion of just worst things that you could ever happens to you at RIKERS Island. You have all types of people thrown in there together. On a given day, there's up to 9,000 inmates going in and out of RIKERS Island. Khalif was stopped in the Bronx in 2010. He was 16 years old. He was told by a police officer that someone said that he robbed them of a backpack. They checked his belongings. He did not have the person's backpack. He also said that there was no way he had done that, and he was still charged for robbery, thrown in Rikers Island, and for 3 years he sat there, a kid, with all these perverts and high criminals and gang members, and was just brutally taken advantage of. He actually was even in the Bing. They call it the Bing, but it's solitary confinement. That's the slang term for solitary confinement, the Bing. He had been in solitary confinement, which is 23 hours a day, almost over half the time that he was in Rikers Island. He was given only an hour outside of his cell many times. He was never found guilty of any crime because he never went to trial. And one day he was just released from Rikers Island. And he committed suicide yesterday in the Bronx. So this is a sad situation where these are still kids. I know that they should be, if they have been, first of all, he should have never been in jail for 3 years and never had a trial. The other girl, she undoubtedly was very troubled for killing that lady like that. But they're still both children, and they should be in facilities where there are children, like, you know, even if it's a step higher than a juvenile facility, but even if it's a jail that houses maybe from 16 to 18-year-olds, rather than throwing these children, these teenagers, in with these violent, pervert criminals called inmates. So it's a really big thing because, you know, it's so much prejudice in the world, and it's such a double sword because, you know, the white kids at a frat party can tear up things and beat up each other or beat up other people, but when their parents get them to, when they get arrested, their parents come with big time lawyers. And a lot of time many felonies for people with a good lawyer is you know, talked down to a misdemeanor, whereas with black children, most black children, they don't have that that luxury where they can come with good lawyers. So many of the inmates also are not being able to get their medication. There are so many inmates who have HIV. The women in the prisons have mental problems, and they're not getting any medication. Many are sick. So this is a really sad situation. Don't we have a constitutional right to a speedy trial? So what happened to Khalif is crazy, but prosecutors all want to make sure they win the case, and the only way a prosecutor can win the case is that they keep putting off the case. You put it off and you put it off and you put it off and you put it off until finally the person that's sitting there in jail, they end up just pleading out, which means the prosecutor wins that case. They're looking at their own resumes. So, you know, and the prison system is big money business. It's going to always go on. They're going to always arrest people, just like funeral home business is big because people are always going to die. They need outside agencies that will come in and actually just watch the correction officers and the inmates and what's going on in these prisons across the country and in jail cells and with police officers. They need outside agencies who only do that. That's all they do, is investigate cops that are questionable and investigate correction officers that are questionable and facilities that are not helping inmates. They do have a right. They have a constitutional right, these children that are being locked up. North Carolina has the same thing where 16-year-olds can be arrested and they are put in the same cells with older people. Prison, the police have enormous amounts of power. Only outside companies would be able to come and do anything about it. Again, the power that the prisons have, they're in charge of your life. And with the police officers, they're in charge of your life. So this is a power that should come with a lot of responsibility. I don't know if all correction officers go into the prison wanting to be mean and prejudiced and abusive, or maybe it turns them into that type of person. But they should be investigated all the time for mental illnesses, stress, and things like that themselves, including police officers. What else did I want to tell you about? Because that was very disturbing. Both of those people committed suicide. Khalif Browder committed suicide in the Bronx yesterday, and who, again, he had been in prison in Rikers Island for 3 years and never had a trial. And Paula Cooper, who killed a 78-year-old woman at 15 years of age, tried to rehabilitate herself while she was in prison and came home and committed suicide as well. The Coney Island roller coaster in New York, the cyclone has broken down once again. It's the second time this year. People were forced to climb down the wooden rickety tracks. See, that's why I don't go on roller coasters anymore, but the first roller coaster I ever was on was in Detroit at Boblo. We had a place called Boblo Park, and you have to take a boat, the Boblo boat, over to the island, Boblo Island, and they had all these rides, and it was called the Mickey Mouse. And that was the scariest ride ever. And then my sister Jackie, when I used to come to New York to visit her, she lived here and she didn't have any children or anything. She was new to New York, and I would come and she would take me to Coney Island. And I rode the Cyclone. And it was fun back then, but I would never do it. Now I know how old it is. The Cyclone is actually 88 years old. Okay, I wish that all of you who really are responsible and you're loving and you're caring, go to a shelter and adopt a dog or a cat. It's a responsibility. If you are up to it, it's a lifetime responsibility of commitment, but it's also in return, you get unconditional love. So there are so many dogs that are being put to sleep and cats, and it's just sad. The flooding killed 8 people in Tbilisi and freed the zoo animals. This was yesterday. Wolves, bears, big cats, and hippos are actually just running the streets, roaming the streets. I saw the video where a hippopotamus was just standing in the middle of cars from the flood that were just going downstream, and he was just standing there looking like he was so confused. He didn't know what was going on. Some of the animals that had to be killed, and some have been captured. Some are still wandering the streets. Of the 600 animals at the zoo, half were missing. Some animals, like a crocodile, was actually just streaming down a city street in the water. Also, 2 employees of the zoo were among the fatalities. Hillary Clinton, she gave her first major campaign speech yesterday at Roosevelt Island. I don't know how many of you saw it. I have not looked at the tapes of it yet, but I'll talk about that later because I'm not really sure if I plan on voting for Hillary Clinton. Let's see what else I have going on. I think that's about it. I really wanted to touch on what's going on at Rikers Island, and you know, government salary. They need, we need to get some from our taxes or whatever to help investigate these prisons. So, you guys have a wonderful Sunday. Thank you for coming to the Amber Shows, and I'll promise to get back to you again soon. And give me a thumbs up if you get a chance. I'd really appreciate that. Thanks.